The first thing you see when you open Excel is a grid of rectangles. These rectangles are called cells, and the grid as a whole is called a spreadsheet or worksheet. A spreadsheet is composed of columns and rows. The columns are identified by letters, and the rows are identified by numbers. Therefore, the location of each cell is identified by a column letter and a row number. For instance, this is cell A3, and this is cell C4. You can also see the location of the selected cell displayed in the name box. In Excel, the mouse cursor is shown as the white plus sign on your screen. To select a cell, follow the steps shown on the screen. I will select cell C5. I first place the mouse cursor on the cell C5. Second, I press and immediately release the left button of the mouse. Once the left button of the mouse is released, the cell gets selected and becomes the active cell. The active cell is always the selected cell. The mouse cursor can be moved anywhere on the spreadsheet, but the selected or active cell remains in the same position. The action of pressing and immediately releasing the left button of the mouse is called clicking and is used to select things like a cell in this case. So, if you hear me mention click or clicking, you know I'm talking about pressing and immediately releasing the left button of the mouse. Formulas are used to perform calculations. To create formulas, follow the steps shown on the screen. I will follow these steps to calculate 8 plus 2. First, I select the cell where I want to enter the formula, which is cell A1. Second, I type in the equal sign. Remember that an Excel formula always starts with the equal sign. Third, I type in the number 8, the symbol plus, and the number 2. Finally, to finish the formula, I press the Enter key. As you can see, the cell A1 displays the formula result instead of the formula. To view the formula, I need to select the cell A1. And you can see that the formula is displayed in the formula bar. The mathematical operators used to create formulas are the plus sign for addition, minus sign for subtraction, asterisk for multiplication, / for division, and caret for exponentiation. Let's see how this is used. I select cell E6 to see its contents in the formula bar. This formula is raising the value in cell C6 to the power of the value in cell D6. So it calculates 4 to the power of 2, which is 16. You can also get the square root of a number by raising the number to the power of 0.5. Let's see how this is used. I select the cell E7 to see its contents in the formula bar. This formula is raising the value in cell C7 to the power of the value in cell D7, so it calculates 4 to the power of 0.5, which is 2. Now, let's see what happens when several operators are used in a formula. For instance, the formula in the yellow cell has addition, exponentiation, and division. So which operation is calculated first? The answer is in the table on the screen. As you can see, Excel first calculates the exponentiation, then the multiplication and division, and finally the addition and subtraction. Let's see how the formula in the yellow cell gets calculated. First, the exponentiation gets calculated. So, 4 is raised to the power of 2, that is 16. Second, the division is calculated. So, 16 divided by 2 is 8. Finally, the addition gets calculated and the result is 10. Now, let's see what happens when a formula has operators that have the same precedence. For instance, the formula in cell B3 has division and multiplication. So which operation is calculated first? When this happens, Excel calculates the operators from left to right. Let's see how the formula in cell B3 gets calculated. Since multiplication and division have the same precedence, Excel will calculate from left to right. So it calculates the division first. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. Then it calculates the multiplication and the result is 4. Now, just to emphasize this concept, let's see what would the result be if multiplication gets calculated first. So, 4 times 2 is 8, and finally 8 divided by 8 is 1. This is wrong, and you will never get this result from Excel. Now, let's see what happens when a formula includes parentheses. Parentheses are used to change the order of the calculation in a formula. Let's see how this works with the two formulas in the yellow cells. In the first formula, the multiplication has precedence over the addition. So, Excel calculates 3 times 3, which is 9, and then calculates 4 plus 9, which is 13. In the second formula, the addition is enclosed within parentheses. This means that the operations inside it need to be calculated before anything else. So, Excel first calculates 4 plus 3, which is 7, and then calculates 7 times 3, which is 21. As you can see, the use of parentheses changed the order in which the formula was calculated. As a tip, a common technique for remembering the order of operations is the abbreviation PEMDAS, which is turned into the phrase, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." It stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction. This tells you the precedence of operations. Parentheses gets calculated before anything else. Exponentiation is second, multiplication and division are third, and addition and subtraction are last. When there are several operations with the same priority, the operations are just calculated from left to right. As shown on the screen, I've calculated the sum of values 1 and 2. The formula bar displays the formula I entered in cell B3, which is adding up these two values. I just realized that value 1 is 3 instead of 9, so I change it to 3. But the calculated total is now incorrect, so the formula needs to be corrected. The way in which this formula was built is very inefficient because it has to be updated every time we have different values to calculate. To build formulas that update automatically, use cell locations instead of values. I will illustrate this in cell B5. First, I begin the formula with the equal sign. Then, instead of typing in the value 3, I type in its cell location, which is B1. Next, I type in the plus symbol. Then, instead of typing in the value 5, I type in its cell location, which is B2. Finally, I press the Enter key. As you can see, Excel calculates the formula. Now, I replace value 2 with 8. And you can see the formula gets automatically recalculated. This is because the formula is reading the values in cells B1 and B2 and gets updated anytime these values are changed. Let's look at the formula in the formula bar. We can see that the formula is composed of cell locations. In a formula, cell locations are called cell references. Now, I will demonstrate an easier method to build a formula with cell references. By using this method, I do not need to type in the cell locations. I will do this in cell B6. First, I start the formula with the equal sign. Then, instead of typing in B1, I select the cell B1 with the mouse. As you can see, the cell location gets automatically typed in. Next, I type in the plus symbol. Then, instead of typing in B2, I select the cell B2 with the mouse. Finally, I press the Enter key. As you can see, this method saved me time and prevented me from making errors. Now, I select the cell B6. We can see in the formula bar that its formula is referencing cells B1 and B2. To highlight the cells that this formula is referencing, I double-click the cell B6. As you can see, the borders of the two cells that the formula is referencing are highlighted with the same colors used for each cell reference displayed in cell B6. This is an excellent way to visualize the cells that are part of a formula. To edit a formula, follow the steps shown on the screen. Take a look at the calculated total of the two values in cell B3. The result is 0 when it should be 11. This means that the formula in cell B3 is wrong and it needs to be edited. I will follow the steps shown on the screen to edit this formula. I first select cell B3. You can see in the formula bar that the formula is adding the values of cells C1 and C2 instead of the values in cells B1 and B2. That is why the result is 0. I need to correct this formula to make it add the values of cells B1 and B2. Second, I click the formula bar. Notice that the formula bar now shows a blinking cursor. This is not the mouse cursor. The mouse cursor is shown here. The formula bar cursor indicates the position where any letter or number you type in will be entered. Third, it's time to edit the formula. With the help of the left arrow key, I position the formula bar cursor just after the first letter C. Then I press the backspace key to delete the letter C. Now I type in the letter B. Now, with the help of the right arrow key, I place the formula bar cursor just after the second letter C. Then I press the backspace key to delete the letter C. Now I enter the letter B. Finally, I press the Enter key. As you can see, the formula in cell B3 has been corrected and displays 11 as its result. A range is a set of two or more cells. To select a range, follow the steps shown on the screen. Let's follow these steps to select a range from cell C3 to cell D5. I first place the mouse cursor on cell C3. Second, I press the left button of the mouse and keep it pressed while moving the mouse towards cell D5. Finally, I release the left button of the mouse. As you can see, the range gets highlighted. The first cell of a range is the one located on the upper left corner, and the last cell of a range is the one located in the bottom right corner. Ranges are identified by their first and last cells. In this case, the selected range starts from cell C3 and ends in cell D5. So, Excel identifies the range by C3:D5, which means from cell C3 to cell D5. The formula bar displays the formula built in cell B5. This formula calculates the total of all the values in the yellow cells. As you can see, this is a long formula that took me a lot of time to build. There is an easier and faster way to calculate the total of all these numbers, and that is by using what are called functions. I select cell E5, and we see the sum function in the formula bar. The sum function gives the same result as the long formula shown before. However, this function is very short. The sum function contains, between parentheses, the range A1 to E4, which is exactly the range that contains all the yellow cells. So, what this function does is to sum all the values in a range starting from cell A1 and ending in cell E4. As you can see, this function is easy to build and understand. As an advice, anytime you need to sum numbers, use the sum function instead of building a formula that adds up each number. Now I click cell E6, and we see the average function in the formula bar. The average function contains, between parentheses, the range A1 to E4. So, what this function does is to get the average of all the values in a range starting from cell A1 and ending in cell E4. As you can see, this function is easy to build and understand too. Now, I click cell E7, and we see the max function in the formula bar. The max function contains, between parentheses, the range A1 to E4. So, what this function does is to get the maximum value of all the values in a range starting from cell A1 and ending in cell E4. In summary, functions are built-in Excel formulas that make it very easy to perform long or complex operations. Excel has hundreds of functions for you to make use of. The sum function is used to return the sum of the values in a range. To build the function, we start by typing in the equal symbol, then the word sum, and within parentheses we enter a range which contains the values to be added. For example, I will build the sum function in cell B6 to calculate the total payments shown on the screen. So I start by entering the equal sign. Then I type in sum and type in the symbol to open parentheses. Now I select the range B2 to B5. And I close parentheses. And finally, I hit the Enter key. As you can see, the sum function returns the result by adding the values in the selected range of cells. Hi there! Do you know that Microsoft Excel has become the most valuable tool in every workplace and a core requirement for every job seeker? Do you know that the majority of Excel users don't really know how to use Excel? That's a reality and a big opportunity for you to stand out and get those promotions. At Excel at Work, we are proud to offer the best online Excel training method in the market. We have thought of everything to make your learning experience the fastest and most enjoyable possible, because we know that your time is precious and you need to get results fast. The knowledge acquired will surely lead to a remarkable change in the way your firm starts to see you as an indispensable asset for your organization. This will help you obtain those promotions you've so desired. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about Excel. Our courses will transform you from a beginner to an Excel guru in no time. To get a feel of our training courses, sign up for our free Excel tutorial and unlock the 3 key concepts of Excel, which are always briefly or inefficiently explained anywhere else. These 3 key concepts are actually the foundation of Excel, and by learning them, your journey with Excel will be a breeze. After signing up, you will be able to watch these videos anywhere, anytime, and from any device. Microsoft Excel has become the most valuable tool in every workplace and a core requirement for every job seeker. Don't waste time and sign up for the free Excel tutorial today. Take a chance and enjoy your journey to a better life. Sign up at www.excelatwork.org.